I gotta say, I've been rating the Halloween candy this week.
Yeah? Got me curious now. Well, what are your go-tos?
You know, the bag that we got from Costco, it's got a bunch of things, but I've really been felt like hammering home the Reese's cups, the Milky Ways, the Butterfingers. Can't go wrong with any of those. There are plenty of other types of candy that I love, but like those, they don't stand a chance. What about you? What are you binge eating right now?
Look at us walking in lockstep yet again, this time on candy of all things, right? Yeah, definitely love, when it comes to chocolate at least, love those peanut butter cups, love the Milky Ways. I got all the time in the world for Twix too, but I have to say if I had to go and grab something out of my Halloween bag right now, I'm a big sour guy. So I'm probably grabbing some Sour Patch Kids or something like that. Can't go wrong with that, I think.
Yeah, Devin, I set it up to be sweet, and you went with sour.
They're sweet. First they're sour, but then they're sweet.
Yeah, we actually call my kid a Sour Patch Kid when he's acting a fool and then decides to be all nice after. So anyway, you know what else is sweet? You know what else I had perfect for the segue? The Red Wings starting off the year 7-3-0. That's what's sweet.
Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
Welcome to episode 58, the Emmett Finney episode. So it's got to be a good one, right? I am your co-host, Devin Little, joined, of course, by my co-host, Tony Wolak. Evan Sabrin is playing Wizard of Oz for Halloween this year. He's kind of the man behind the curtain this week, but he'll be back next week, of course. We got a big show ahead of you. Like I said, it's the Emmett Finney episode. We're doing something maybe a little different than what you're maybe expecting. We are recording Thursday evening ahead of the Red Wings game against the Los Angeles Kings. Sorry, guys, we're not going to stay up until 1 o'clock to record a podcast. I can't do it. And I know Tony can't do it. He's got a kid. So that being said, we very much plan for this episode to be kind of a taking stock of things. The Red Wings are 10 games into their season. We're going to kind of look back, see what they've done well, see where they still have areas to improve. And even with just that, we have a lot to talk about. So strap in. I think we've got a really good episode ahead of you guys. Before we dive into it, I got to get this stuff out of the way. Thank you for listening. We are the Flying Octopus Podcast. You can find us anywhere that you watch or listen to your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. You want to find us? I bet we're there. Tony, I kind of already teed it off. Let's dive into it. The Red Wings are 10 games into their 2025-26 season. It's crazy how quick this season goes. I know that it's only 1/8 of the way in, but before we know it, Thanksgiving's going to be here, and we all know how significant American Thanksgiving is when it comes to the NHL calendar. So I'm curious. We'll start this off. There were a lot of key players entering this season and different age groups, different roles. I want to start with where everyone kind of thought the Red Wings needed help. There were 3 roster spots that needed to be addressed in the offseason. That was top line left wing with Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond. That was the middle 6, maybe some scoring punch, some physicality. And then top 4 defensemen, ideally on the right side. At least 2 of those roles appeared to be filled. And those roles, of course, are Emmett Finney, Emmett Finney episode, top line wing next to Larkin and Raymond. And then the other one that seems to have been filled is the top 4 defensemen on the right side, being Axel Sandin-Pellikka. And let's talk about Axel Sandin-Pellikka real quick here. Tony, the Red Wings needed a defenseman to step up this year. Obviously, Moritz Seider has carried the team on his back, really, pretty much since he arrived in Detroit. They needed somebody else to step up and kind of announce themselves as a go-to defenseman for this team. What have you, from your perspective, what have you seen from ASP in terms of his fit and how and just how he's looked through the first 10 games of this season.
Yeah, with Axel Sandin-Pellikka, he looks right at home. It's kind of crazy to think because like going into the season, everyone was like, yeah, he needs time in the AHL to adjust to things. It's just the way it is. But first game of the season, it's there. 10 games in the season, still there. And he looks the part of a top 4 NHL defenseman already. And this is his first year in the league. I think what's important to take away here is that the Red Wings, they that was one of my X factors for the season. They needed someone to step up as that top 4 defenseman. You figure Edvinsson's going to be there, Seider's going to be there, Ben Sherratt's going to be there. Who's going to be that 4th guy? And I think many of us figured it'll be Albert Johansson. He kind of stepped into that role last season and was fine. You could make the case that Jacob Bernard-Docker had some intriguing upside after the Red Wings brought him over, but probably more of a dark horse candidate. But again, I think a lot of people thought that Sandin-Pellikka would start the year in the AHL, and myself included. And then as we get through training camp and into the preseason, it's like, maybe he doesn't. Or maybe he spends most of the year in Detroit instead of most of the year in Grand Rapids. And with each preseason game he was in, he looked more and more at home in an NHL role. And the Red Wings just kept giving him more and more responsibility. And you saw that in the preseason games against Toronto towards the end. He was playing significant minutes. And so entering the season, it's like, okay, all right, let's try him out, see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, well, he got a taste of NHL action, and then he can go learn from that in Grand Rapids. Instead, we are 10 games in. He's still on the roster. He's quarterbacking power play 2. And it looks like from when he has the puck and when he's, driving play, he looks like outstanding on the ice. There's still some, work to be done in the defensive end and just kind of adjusting to the physicality of the game and playing against the world's best. So like he'll get there. He's not going to win as many net front battles as someone like Ben Sherratt would. But that's why you have Seider and Edvinsson and Sherratt also in the top 4, is that those guys can, move their weight and can push players around. And, Sandin-Pellikka has been, great when it comes to breaking the puck out of the zone. And that was something that Red Wings kind of struggled with last year as well. There are some times where he and Edvinsson have these kind of like younger player gaffes and still kind of learning how to play off one another. And even when the Red Wings paired up Edvinsson and Seider in the latest game against St. Louis, and Sherratt wound up playing with Sandin-Pellikka. And honestly, like, it worked. Like, that was one of Detroit's best games. But it's nice to know that the Red Wings can kind of move players around, and Sandin-Pellikka still looks good. He wasn't being carried by Edvinsson by any means. He was, good with Sherratt. And what this says is the Red Wings have 2 solid pairs of defensemen. You can't just, like this year, they're not going to just rely on Sherratt and Seider or Edvinsson and Seider just to take the bulk of the, heavy shifts and the shifts against elite players. You can throw whoever you want out there and they'll probably do well.
Yeah, I'd say so. And actually, you raise a good point, and I'm going to pivot here to a question. I'm curious we've obviously had a bigger sample size in one way than we have the other way, but you mentioned that they made the switch. Edvinsson is now on the top pairing right now, at least with Moritz Seider. You have more Ben Sherratt down on the second pairing with Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Ben Sherratt and Moritz Seider has been the Red Wings' top pairing really since Ben Sherratt signed in Detroit almost 4 years ago now. So it's definitely it's a change of pace here. I'm curious, just, you don't need to give me a super in-depth answer if you don't want to, but what do you think? What do you think of that change? Do you think that it's been beneficial for the Red Wings? Do you think that that's maybe the way they need to move forward? Or do you think that it's kind of just a fluid situation? We're going to see this move up and down, throughout the year?
I think it's the latter. It's going to kind of depend on who's playing well. If for whatever reason, one of the pairs just isn't clicking, they can make that switch and it'll be fine. Seider is solid, whether he's playing with Edvinsson or Sherratt. Sandin-Pellikka's good if he's playing with Edvinsson or Sherratt. Like, there's flexibility, and that's a great thing. But as far as the rest of the season goes, it's, whoever is playing the best is probably going to get the most minutes. And if you're not playing as good, but still pretty good, you'll still get solid enough minutes.
Makes sense to me. I think that's how it should go, right? Moving forward here, aside from, the exciting young players propelling this team forward, we're also seeing some pretty big performances from guys that are not as young as they used to be, and in fact are in contract years. Well, at least most of these guys aren't as young as they used to be, but we're seeing some pretty big performance, pretty big bounce back performances in at least one case as well. Patrick Kane is obviously on a 1 year deal. He's been on 1 year deal since he joined the Red Wings. Ben Sherratt, as I mentioned, signed with the Red Wings about 4 years ago. He's in the final year of his contract. You got Simon Edvinsson, who's in a contract year. Jacob Bernard Docker, who signed a 1 year prove it deal with the Red Wings this past offseason. And then you got Cam Talbot in the second year of his 2 year contract. He signed with the Red Wings as well. All of these guys I just named have performed various levels of good this season. I think, just real quick, in my opinion, Sherratt specifically has really impressed. Maybe the key for him is that you sign him, you start doing the Patrick Kane with him, where you just go year by year every year, so that he always has that motivation, because he very much looks like a different player to start this season, and for the better. From your perspective, Tony, what are you seeing from the guys that are playing for a contract this year?
Quick, because I know there's going to be some people who like snap their head real quick when they hear you bringing up re-signing Ben Sherratt. Before you react and before you start calling for Devin's head, take a look. See, what's out there for a left-handed defenseman in this year's free agent class. Take a look at that first, and then react. Yeah, I mean, you coined it, the Sherratt-essence, or whatever it was that you posted, but like Ben Sherratt's having a decent year. Like maybe it's like less pressure with Edvinsson and Sandy Pellikka there as well, but I mean, guys, we got to be honest. He is not the player that we're all ripping on anymore. He's having a good season. Like, it is what it is. But, as far as contract years go, like, I know that's a term that gets thrown around a lot about like a contract year boost. And I've seen, various studies done on it across sports, and some say there is a little bit of a bump. Some say it's inconclusive. Regardless of whether, whatever study it is, whatever sample they're looking at, whether they say there is a bump or there isn't necessarily a bump, the takeaway from that is, like, in some cases, yes, in other cases, no. But for Detroit's case, all the players we mentioned, there is a little bit of a bump. Like, it's not a guaranteed that's going to happen, but so far, the Red Wings are batting 1,000 for contract year players, trying to overperform and go above and beyond so they can land a more lucrative contract next year. So with Kane, with Sherratt, with Talbot, with Bernard Docker, like those players, they're all going to be unrestricted free agents this summer. And Kane, is probably going year by year, and Detroit's probably going to be his, preferred destination. But you have to keep in mind that like all of these players, but especially Sherratt, Bernard Docker, and Talbot, they have a lot at stake here. Like Kane's going to have a home next year if he wants to keep playing, for sure. The other players, I mean, like, let's be honest, they may end up signing for a league minimum somewhere just to be in a good situation, unless they have an outstanding year and prove that they still have like a lot of, runway left in their careers. And so far they're doing that. And for Simon Edvinsson, you look around and seeing Luke Hughes getting paid. You look around and you see Lane Hudson getting paid, Thomas Harley getting paid. And we'll get to that, the last one later. You have to think that he sees those numbers out there, but the only way he can, get close to that is if he proves that he can take his game up another level, and that trajectory is going to keep on going up. Because if that's the case, then yeah, he's looking at double digits for how many millions of dollars he'll get per year moving forward. He has that incentive. Like this is his financial security for the rest of his life at stake here. It's pretty wild to say that considering how young he is, but that's just the nature of the game. And given where the Red Wings drafted him, his pedigree, and, him being a cornerstone player, it's like, yeah, like he should be going above and beyond. Like it should be his own motivation. So it's like, we're not talking about $8.5 million a year. We're talking about $12 million a year. That difference across the lifetime of an 8-year contract, it's a lot. And it's a lot of money that could be funding his retirement, later on after his playing days are over, funding his kids' endeavors, their kids' endeavors. Like there's a lot at stake here. And he stepped up to the plate, and he's been doing it. Like, there's a reason why he's on the top pair against the Blues in the last game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I guess to build on the point here, just the overall point, I remember being very impressed by Bernard Docker in preseason play. I thought that he earned a spot in the opening night lineup. He didn't play in the opening night game, but I thought that he's a former first round pick of the Ottawa Senators. Obviously, when you're drafted in the first round, there's a certain pedigree, there's kind of a certain assumption of your talent level, and there's a certain expectation for how your career is going to go. And it didn't go the way that he had hoped with the Senators. He was then traded to the Buffalo Sabres for the latter part of last season, and obviously the Sabres didn't retain him. So I think you described it perfectly. He specifically was playing for his hockey future this season when he signed that 1-year prove-it deal with the Red Wings. And so far, so good, I would say. I think that he's showing that if he's not a long-term piece with the Red Wings, he can at least be a short-term piece. Maybe he is somebody that kind of fills a gap while you wait for guys like Anton Johansson and anyone else to kind of step up on that right side. It's not as big of a urgent need right now, but again, it's early, it's 10 games, but he at the very least has shown himself that he's not a throwaway. He actually is. He's going to play some games for the Red Wings, and I think he's looked pretty good. And then Cam Talbot is another guy I want to focus on here because he's 39 years old, or at least going on it. I forget if he's hit 39 yet, but I don't know how much longer he has in his career just in general. I mean, not many goalies play past 40 nowadays. So not only is Talbot trying to show that he can keep going, he's still a viable NHL goaltender, and he is think that he's somebody. I mean, the whole team wants this, but he's somebody that wants the Red Wings to make the playoffs because he's only got 1, 2, maybe 3 more shots at like a decent playoff run. And he's going to have to be part of that if the Red Wings are going to have one this season. Obviously, John Gibson has had the majority of starts this season, but when Talbot has played, he's played very well, and I think that he's earned more starts than he's had so far, and good on him for doing so. And then there's also, the narrative of the young goalie talent that the Red Wings have coming up the pipeline right now, and Talbot's the easiest one to identify and go, he can move out to make room for Kosa or Augustine or whoever. So Talbot's playing for pride. Talbot's playing for accomplishment. Talbot's playing for another year or two. He's playing for a lot, and for what he is playing for, he showed himself really well to start here in my opinion.
And I do want to say though, like, I think a rebuttal to that would be like, well, the Islanders game didn't go so well for Cam Talbot, but like that's one of those games where it's like it's important to have the context behind the numbers. Is dude got hung out to dry. Absolutely. There is not a lot he could have done on most of those goals, and like the GAA is going to be 7 for that game. But if you look at just the context of it and just the danger of the shots and the position that his team was putting him in, it's like. Doesn't matter who was in that. Doesn't matter if it was Gibson or Kosa or Postava or Augustine. Like those pucks were going in. The Red Wings didn't help them out very much. So numbers are great. Context makes them better. But going back to Bernard Docker real quick and Edvinsson for that matter, these two players, if you look at NHL aging curves, they like obviously it's like you enter the league early 20s, right? The peak of an NHL player's talent, whatever you want to call it, production is somewhere in the 26 to 29 range, depending on whose study it is and the sample and the study. And that's roughly the peak, right? So for players like Seider and Raymond and Edvinsson and Bernard Docker and Albert Johansson and Jonathan Berggren and Marco Kasper and all these young Red Wings players, they should be getting incrementally better every year until they reach that peak based on the logic of that curve. And like, not every player is alike. Some players are going to have different trajectories with their career, but like that age curve that's the average. So as long as the average is going up for those early years, that's what you should assume that these young players for the Red Wings are doing. And so far, that has certainly been the case for Seider. It's certainly been the case for Edvinsson, Raymond, Bernard Docker, and Albert Johansson. Like they have all leveled up from last year, for sure. Jonathan Berggren, he's had a good last few games, but there's a reason why he's struggling to stay in the lineup. Marco Kasper has been flying under the radar a little bit. The production hasn't quite been there, but I do think he's been playing good hockey. It just hasn't translated on the score sheet. And the other player, like in that same cohort, is Michael Rasmussen, the elder statesman of that group. And like, not too much needs to be said there. He just hasn't played very well this season. So in the whole of it, if you're looking at the young players who should be ascending, most are ascending, and their critical players are ascending. So that is a big check mark for the Red Wings there for, how they can improve year over year. It's like the roster stays the same, but you have to understand that the players are going to get better just based on experience and just growing with age. So, Devin, I do have to ask, is this an indictment that the Yzer plan is working?
I mean, in my unbiased opinion, I think so. I think that these are the years that they've been building towards. And when I say they, I mean Steve Yzerman and all of his staff. It was never about he joined the organization or rejoined the organization in the spring of 2019. It was never about 2020. It was never about 2021. It was never about 2022 for that matter. It's always been about right around this time frame, because you've got Dylan Larkin in his peak right now. You've got Alex DeBrincat in his peak right now. You've got a lot of savvy veteran talent now. You've got Patrick Kane. You've got Ben Sherratt, who admittedly hasn't been that great over the entirety of his time with the Red Wings, but right now is playing very good hockey. You've got good veteran talent in goal. And then you combine these players that are either at the peak of their powers or have loads of experience and are still capable NHL players, and you combine them with young guys that are scratching the surface of what they can do, like Emmett Finney and Axel Sandin-Pellikka, Marco Kasper, and the guys that are entering their peak are really ascending. You mentioned them. You got Seider, you got Edvinsson, you got Lucas Raymond, go on and so on and so forth. It's that perfect mix. I don't know if perfect's the right way to the perfect word for it, but you've got a really solid mix of veteran talent that's in its prime, and talent that is going to enter its prime very, very soon. And there's more on the way too, right? Like that the prospect pool is far from depleted, despite the fact that they have two rookies on their roster. Michael Branstad-Nygaard obviously was assigned to Grand Rapids earlier this week, but he's going to be back eventually, whether that's later this season or next season, whatever. He's going to be back. And, Carter Mazur's there, Nate Danielson. There's a few call-ups that we feel like are imminent at some point this season as well. So this train, it's one of those things where, if you were waiting to get your ticket on the Red Wings hype train, I think there's still time to get it. But that train's leaving the station very, very soon. So if you aren't on the Yzer plan train, grab your tickets while they're still available, because we're running out.
And then, one other thing to call out, and we kind of touched on this a little bit with Cam Talbot, but over the last few years, let's be honest, Detroit has not had the best goaltending. They've kind of been, plugging holes as they can and just not committing to long-term anything really. Last offseason, Cam Talbot, they brought in, he was probably the best goalie that they've signed or had on their team in years. No offense to Ville Husso or Alex Nedeljkovic or Thomas Greiss or anything like that, but not since prime Jimmy Howard at least. But so they bring him in, and of course, it's the collective of the goalies last year just was average or slightly below average. Now this year, it's you have Talbot, who again is fighting for another contract, and John Gibson, a former All-Star who had a great year, even if it was a bit shortened with Anaheim last year, but someone's certainly capable of carrying a team throughout the season and playing very well. They've both been great for the Red Wings. And again, going back to what I was saying about the numbers before, their save percentage, their goals against average, those things are meh completely. But that's just what's going to happen when you still have an improving team, right? There's still be plenty of times when someone just gets left wide open and there's not much the goalie can do about it. It's great that the Red Wings are limiting the shots against, and that's why the save percentage of these goalies is, a little lower than you probably want. Detroit is the 10th best in the league at shots allowed per game at 26.3 as of this recording. In the past, they've been, getting worked over in the shots department. But again, if you're Gibson or Talbot and you're only facing about 26 shots a night, maybe 2 or 3 go in, and sometimes there's not much you can do about it anyway. I'll take it. That's good. It's not it's not it's not what you see from the Florida Panthers or these teams that are built for Fort Knox defense. But still it works. And like these goalies still, like, they're talented and they can make up for these defensive gaffes most of the time. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but as we've seen so far, it's generally speaking, it's been fine for the Red Wings with how things have balanced out.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think that, before every game, they always, here are your starting goaltenders, and then they throw up their stats on the screen while they're doing their warm up. They talk about them for 15 seconds or whatever. And right now, I think that you're seeing kind of a product of a small sample size right now, because both of these goalies, meaning John Gibson and Cam Talbot, their numbers don't necessarily jump off the screen at you, and you might think that they're not doing what we're saying they're doing. I mean, John Gibson has a .876 save percentage right now. That's not good, but he has been good. That's kind of where I'm getting at with this. Like, Gibson has like 2 bad games that are kind of weighing down his overall statistics to where it looks like he's Swiss cheese right now, and that's not the case. So I think the thing that gives me confidence is that despite these random aberrations where the goalies are under fire, and like you said with the Islanders game with Cam Talbot, it didn't matter who was in net there. Those pucks were all going to go in the net. Gibson has a couple of those games too, where it didn't matter whether it was him or Talbot or whoever in the goal. It just the team in front of them was allowing too many quality chances. And despite that, the team's still winning games. The goalies are still playing well. I said on social media recently that, John Gibson isn't elite by any chance, or at least, not elite nowadays. But at the very least, he very clearly looks like an NHL quality goaltender. And that kind of goes to what you were saying just a little bit ago, Tony, where, no offense to the Hussos and the Delkoviches, et cetera, of, yesteryear. But Gibson added a certain level of credibility to Detroit's crease this year. And I think that we're seeing that through the first 10 games of the season. I think that Cam Talbot is, like we've already said, playing very well for himself in albeit a kind of a limited role. But Gibson is he's an NHL goaltender, and it's been really refreshing to watch NHL quality goaltending more often than not through the first 10 games of this season.
You're certainly helping with the penalty kill, that's for sure. I mean, a lot's been going right for the penalty kill this year, but if you're, looking at where the Red Wings were last year and where they are this year, yeah, I mean, I think they're doing pretty good. There's a stat about Cam Talbot and his save percentage when it comes to, being on the penalty kill. I'm not going to say it because he's starting tonight, and I do not want this to come back and bite me in the ass. So won't say it. But like, for Detroit's penalty kill as a whole, like, number one, goalies are holding it down. Like, they are doing a better job compared to last year. Great news there. Overall, I've been impressed with their more aggressive approach. Like, it's when Todd McClellan came in last year, he couldn't rock the boat too much, because there's only so much you can teach players and drill into them in the middle of a season that won't like completely wreck things. And like, I know the penalty kill last year was god awful, but you can only make slight adjustments to it in a short amount of time. Whereas like if you have a whole summer to study and then like training camp and preseason, like you can implement new systems from this like in their entirety. So what we're seeing differently this year is the Red Wings are a bit more aggressive when opponents are attacking the blue line, pinching off play there, getting them to, dump the puck in or just kind of lose it and get a takeaway and dump it back down the ice. They've been very aggressive on loose pucks. Like if a player is bobbling it or has their back turned to them slightly as they're, collecting a pass, someone's jumping on that player to make them make a quick move and hopefully turn the puck over. They've also been taking shorter shifts. Doesn't always apply when the Red Wings take a penalty in the second period, but in general, they're taking shorter shifts, and that's helping out as well. One other thing I'm seeing from the structure is there's more block shots with how the players are positioned in the diamond. When the puck is up high, you start to see the two sides of the diamond sort of get moved towards the middle and kind of clog up the slot. And if it happens to hit them or they happen to block the shot, great. It's one less puck on net and one less puck for the goalie to have to deal with. And then, same thing for when the puck is on the flanks. You got two players in the shooting lane and still giving the goalie opportunity to see it, but also as the shooter, you have to like put the puck past two defenders and probably one of your own players if they're out front in front of the net. So more block shots is helping out for the penalty kill. Like all these things put together makes for a better penalty kill. If you implemented like one or two, like if you implemented like the aggressive blue line or aggressive when it comes to loose pucks last year, or you just implement the structure where you're blocking more shots, but then don't implement the other things, you may not see the same success, but all put together, it's a much better penalty kill. They're ninth best in the league at this point at 82.5% killed off compared to 70.1, which was the worst in the league last year. Devin, what else are you seeing from the penalty kill, and what, in your opinion, makes it better compared to what we saw last season?
I think the biggest difference from my perspective is that everyone seems to know what they're doing. And by that, I mean, there's just a little added layer of confidence. I feel like I don't see a lot of people with their heads looking around like, you got him, I got him, who's got this guy? Like there's like an understanding and a confidence in the system. They know what they're supposed to do and they do it. There's no guessing going on. They just kind of know what they're doing. And just that added level of certainty, for lack of better words, and what your role is and what you can expect your teammates to do, that helps infinitely. And I think that that's what we're seeing here. I think that it was maybe a little bit of a disappointment last season to see, Todd McClellan and Trent Yanni join the organization about halfway through the year. And you kind of hoped that they would get it was too late for the penalty kill to like flip all the way to be one of the league's best, but you kind of hoped that it would get to like a respectable area, and it never really got there. So I think that, having a full summer for the coaching staff to, prep and know their players, know what they're dealing with, right? They got kind of a taste of it the last season. And then also the players themselves. Now they understand these coaches, they're familiar with them. They know their verbiage and what they mean when they say to do this. Everyone kind of understands each other just a little bit more. And that cohesiveness, I think, kind of has led to that certainty I'm talking about, where everyone just knows where to be and knows where their teammates are on the ice. I think that removing the guesswork out of the penalty kill is like half the battle, honestly. If you aren't having to think like you have to cover for your teammate over there, you can just focus on what you need to do. That alone just removes a weight off your shoulders. And I'm seeing a lot of players on this Red Wings penalty kill that don't have a ton of weight on their shoulders right now. Now, obviously, the last year's penalty kill was atrocious, and to see where they are this season is a remarkable improvement. And that's why we're gushing about it right now. Now, on the other side of things, the power play last year was phenomenal. It was probably the only reason why the Red Wings were in the playoff hunt, as long as they were, to be quite frank. This year, they haven't been as prolific. Having said that, though, they are being they're adequate right now. 3% success rate, which ranks 11th in the league, just a little under the 27% mark they were at last season. A little bit down, but not significantly. I'm curious, Tony. Obviously, they're not at the level they were last season. Are you concerned at all about that, or do you think that this is just a slump that they'll eventually get out of?
I'm not really concerned about Detroit's power play. I mean, when you think about it, when both Patrick Kane and Lucas Raymond were in the lineup, they were, scoring at a 25% clip, which honestly isn't too different from where they were last year. They were 3 for 12 with both in the lineup. Obviously, since then, it's been a little lower. First, Lucas Raymond was out for a couple of games, then came back, then Patrick Kane's been out. So I don't think it's stagnation. I think it's just personnel, and it's not anything that the Red Wings can really do about it. It's like, it doesn't matter who you put in place of Patrick Kane on the top power play unit. They're not Patrick Kane. Like, Evan Finney's great, not Patrick Kane. Marco Casper's great, not Patrick Kane. So when you have a power play set up to kind of funnel through Patrick Kane and then Patrick Kane's gone, you're going to have to adjust. And it may take a few games to learn a new reality with Kane out of the lineup, figure out different ways to move the puck around, to funnel the puck through a different player, to create offense. And I think over the last, I guess if you're thinking about the last two games against the St. Louis Blues, they have been getting pretty good puck movement from the top power play unit. They, Alex DeBrincat had a nice tip, moving it in front of the net, screening Jordan Bennington, and then tipping it past him. So they're finding other ways to succeed. And sometimes when you're thrust into in a new situation, it takes a minute to get your bearings. That was the case for Detroit's power play one when Kane went out. Now, as a whole, I think, they're fine. Kane will be back eventually. Hopefully no one else goes out for an extended period of time, knock on wood for that. But also just the personnel that they have options too. Like we saw James Van Riemsdyk on power play 1 to give them a different look. Marco Kasper's a year better. Jonathan Berggren's a year better. Axel Sandy Pellikka is a better quarterback on the second power play unit than they've had in the last couple of years. No offense to Shane Gostisbehere there. But he moves the puck extremely well. And I think with this team is they have 2 good power play units. And it's not just one is completely stacked and playing most of the 2 minutes and the other just kind of gets one look and that's it. No, it's like there's an internal competition to see who gets more ice time. Since Kane went down, power play 2 stepped up a little bit. They haven't always converted on their looks. Up until DeBrincat's power play goal this past game, both units have scored 1 goal apiece since Kane went out. So like they're finding ways to contribute. They're finding ways to, live in a world without Patrick Kane. But I think in the long run, when Patrick Kane is back and everyone's back, it'll be fine. Like the Red Wings will have a top 10 power play, hopefully even higher than that, but certainly something that can keep, helping them, win games, take leads, mount comebacks, give them a dangerous opportunity to go out and compete every night.
The way I look at this, I have kind of just 2 thoughts on this. One, when your power play isn't as prolific as it was last season, but you're still winning games, you still won 7 out of 10 games, that tells me that you're finding different ways to score goals, that you're probably scoring more goals at even strength. And that's where you need to make your living. Obviously, the power play is, you got to make good on your opportunities when you get them, but you're going to live and die in this league at even strength. And so the fact that the Red Wings are seemingly, at least, improved in that aspect, they're going to win more games because of it. And like you said, Tony, and I fully agree, their power play is going to get better over time. So if they can continue to create goals and chances and find ways to win games at even strength, their power play, once it rounds back into form, is just going to put them, even closer to where they actually want to be at the end of the season. So I'm not concerned at all. In fact, I'm more encouraged that despite them dropping off a bit, they're still on a better start than they were. It's their best start since 2011, which is, or 2010. It was the 2010 and 2011 season, which is insane, by the way. Also, more often than not, like most seasons, if you told me before the season, this team's going to convert on 23% of their power plays, more often than not, I'm going to take that. Like it's not a bad rate at all. It's just for comparing it to some craziness last season. So by no means is the Red Wings power play bad this year. It's just not as good as it was last year. I don't remember whose theory this is or who kind of coined this way of thinking, but I remember growing up and hearing a lot that if your power play and your penalty kill percentages add up to 100, you're in a good spot. Well, the Red Wings power play and their penalty kill add to 100, just about 110. It's like 108. So they're in a good spot right now. And theoretically, it's only going to get higher. So their special teams have been special, at least in my opinion, to start this season.
It was a wise man who kind of came up with that theory. That was Scotty Bowman. I think he knows a thing or two about the game.
I would say so. I kind of wondered if it was Scotty. All smart hockey ideas, I just kind of assume come from that man. So I probably should have assumed that as well.
But you did touch on something earlier about just getting more scoring throughout the lineup. Every single player who's dressed for the Red Wings this season has a point. That includes Cam Talbot and John Gibson. Everyone else, Travis Hamonic, Albert Johansson, Michael Brandt-Nygaard, Michael Rasmussen, everyone. And I know that's like not exactly a barometer of depth scoring, but I mean, at least in my opinion, I think it is. Like if everyone is like getting on the score sheet somehow, like what more do you want? Like, and on top of that, you have players like DeBrincat and Raymond and Larkin and even Emmett Finney who are putting up nearly a point per game. So kind of carrying the load, but still, it's not just them. It's not just those top players. It's the players further down the lineup too, who are, holding up their end of the bargain and getting on the score sheet to give the Red Wings, at least from an offensive standpoint, a chance to win every night. But yeah, Devin, let me ask you, like, kind of wrapping up this overview of the Red Wings 10 games in, what are you looking for, I guess, over these next few games and throughout the season to take this team to the next level? Like, what do you think they need to improve upon? Because, like, Yeah, they're not perfect. Like, let's be honest.
I hate to oversimplify it, but really consistency. There's been plenty of games already through the first 10 where this team looks dramatically different than they have in years prior. They look like a playoff caliber team, quite frankly. There have been games where you're seeing contributions up and down the lineup. Everyone's playing to their role. It's, the rookies are doing exactly what you hope they're doing. The veterans are doing what you hope they're doing. Like, everyone's clicking. And then there's other games where they look worse than they did last season. Like they look like they've regressed. I don't think they have regressed, but they still have enough nights here and there where you go, geez, it's going to be another roller coaster season. And those have been the nights where Todd McClellan is either calling out the team after the game or he's calling them out during the game, during a timeout. So I think that for Todd McClellan's blood pressure, at the very least, you'd like to see the team just even things out a little bit. The highs can stay as high as they want to go, obviously, but if the lows can stop getting as low as they go, sometimes even that, like I think the Red Wings need more good losses, I guess, and obviously they need more wins than losses. But when they lose games, feels like more often than not, they're bad losses where you just are really discouraged by what you've seen from the team. So even in losing efforts, I'd like to see them still look like a really good team that just was on the wrong side of it on that night. If they can have more quality nights than bad nights, they're going to win more games than they lose. And when they're playing at that level, you can stomach the losses because they're still playing well. If they can continue to, and then that's where the consistency comes in. If they can consistently play good hockey, you obviously still hope you win more than you lose, but you can stomach those losses more because you're still playing a good brand of hockey.
For me, the one thing that I want to see just improved upon in the next handful of games and then moving on into the season is just starting on time. Like, it kind of speaks to consistency like you were talking about, but if you look at the 10 games so far, the Red Wings, they've scored 5 goals in the first period. That's it. Half a goal per game. That's 31st in the league. And then when it comes to goals against, they've given up 10. So at least, or just averaging 1 against per game in the first period. And that it ranks 3rd in the league. So definitely towards the bottom for both. You don't want to be a bottom 10 league or bottom 10 team in the league for any stat. And for the first period, they are a bottom 10 team for both offense and defense. So if they can start games on time, great. They will be much better for it. And then the focus will be more on protecting the lead, keeping the foot on the gas, and learning to close out games effectively. I'd much rather see that than having to mount comebacks. But again, a win's a win. 7-3 is a great start, but still, you don't want to get complacent and not, adjust as the season goes along. They need to be more consistent. They need to start on time. They could do those. They'll be in great shape come playoff time.
Yeah, I'd say so. And we did this kind of last week, so I want to do it again, Tony. Before we pivot to the latter part of our show here, I want to ask you, if I told you at the beginning of the season that the Red Wings would win 7 of their first 10 games, what would you have said?
Great. I'm in. Playoffs, here we come. Let's go.
Honestly, I'm right there with you. I don't know that I would have predicted it, but even with the roller coaster play that they kind of have had through the first 10 games, to win 7 of them, I don't know how there are people out there that are dissatisfied, because this is, like I said before, this is their best start in over a decade. And I don't see signs that this is a mirage either. So I'm personally happy that it seems like we're entering a new phase where we get to talk about good Red Wings hockey on a more regular basis, because it's been a slog the last few years, let me tell you.
We are entering the hell yeah phase, that's for sure.
Hell yeah, we are.
And then just to wrap things up, Red Wings have 4 games until we see you guys next time, playing the Los Angeles Kings in about 2 hours here from when we're recording. So that game Thursday night, they play Anaheim Friday night, San Jose on Sunday, and then Vegas on Tuesday before returning home. As for some news and notes real quick, Austin Watson got the recall to be, potentially a deterrent if he's in the lineup, but also just another body as the Red Wings continue their West Coast road trip. We'll see if he gets into a game. You have to figure Carter Mazur probably would have gotten that recall had he not gotten injured. Nate Danielson still needs some time after recovering from his own injury. So Austin Watson, it was the most probable recall, and it ended up being him. Some signings that have happened. Thomas Harley got an 8-year contract extension with the Dallas Stars, 10.58 million AAV. Notable for the Simon Edvinsson contract extension that will likely come this summer. Marty Necas with the Colorado Avalanche re-signed for 8 years and 11.5 million, and then Logan Cooley re-signed with the Utah Mammoth for 8 years and 10 million per season. So clearly, contract values are going up. Now, I feel weird with this last topic, but we're going to close it with some Brad Marchand news. Devin, you want to take it away?
This news is proof that even the nastiest guy in the NHL, or the guy that like grinds your gears, probably actually a decent guy off the ice, right? Because Lord knows what Brad Marchand's reputation is across the league, at least for how he plays. But really special, I think, piece of news over this week was how Brad Marchand decided to step away from the Florida Panthers to fill in as a guest coach after his friend's daughter died of cancer. This is it's under 18. It's a game over in Nova Scotia. Marchand is actually a co-owner of the team. That's kind of partially why he's got that connection to the team in the first place. But really kind of an awesome thing. Brad Marchand is one of those guys that every hockey fan knows, and every hockey fan outside of Boston and Florida really does not like to see him playing against their favorite team. But I don't know about you, Tony, but his honestly, since he joined the Panthers, I know my view of him has really changed. I thought he was a really fun guy to keep track of once he joined the Panthers. That there was that whole thing with Dairy Queen, and now there's this. Like, the dude's clearly got a big heart. He also gave a really sidebar here, but he also gave a really insightful answer during an intermission, or I think it was after the game, to ESPN. They asked him about leaving Boston, and he gave a really insightful answer. I think he gave like a 2-minute answer, just kind of about the emotions and just the whole concept of it, that and the path that led him to the trade that landed him in Florida. If you haven't watched that answer, I highly recommend you go look it up, whether it's on social media or YouTube or whatever. But is it weird for me to say that I think I'm becoming a Brad Marchand fan, Tony?
I don't think it's weird, but yeah, we're closing it out with some love for Brad Marchand. So it's a first for us here. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the Flying Octopus Podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, leave us a comment, leave us some feedback, like, subscribe, you know the deal. And yeah, we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.